Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
With your host, Brandon Tierney. In 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? BT Unleashed here on a Wednesday. Hopefully everybody's doing well. J-Rod, the glare is gone. The glare is
there
gone.
There we go.
No
it's
more
looking
glare.
great.
Yeah, right? We're getting there, buddy.
We did it.
The glare is gone. Somebody let Gio know the glare is gone. I'm going to mess around with a new camera angle today. Let me see that full shot right there. Kind of tweaking things. Let me know if you guys digging this. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you are revved up like I am revved up. 8 days to the NFL draft here. Speaking of the NFL draft, there were some juicy rumors with the Jets last night. Daniel Jeremiah, some others had some pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, we'll be at it tonight. Obviously, episode number 4 of the Jets Collective. Looking forward to that. So make sure you guys go check that out on YouTube. That's right. Myself and Rich and Jake. Episode number 4 already 3,000 subs. You guys are doing a good job. So we will keep rolling on a weekly basis, the three of us. And then obviously as we get to the season, we'll do 2 shows. So listen, and the other thing about the draft, now that's Jet specific. I am so old school with these notes. I waste so many pieces of paper. It's ridiculous. But Mel Kiper put out his final draft, so I want to have a little fun with that. And before we get into what I think is a pretty interesting topic, I got a couple things for you today, but I'm going to start with Steve Cohen's tweet there. Let everybody know, BT Unleashed, of course, brought to you by Sullivan Papain, one of New York's best personal injury law firms, according to U.S. News and World Report. Find Sullivan online at triallaw1.com. That's triallaw1.com. But also by Premio Sausage. Great meals begin with great ingredients. Premio delivers flavor you can rely on. Premio Sausage, the way sausage should be. Find them online at premiofoods.com or in your local grocery store. So great thanks and a great relationship with Sullivan Papain. And now, more recently, Premio Foods, Premio Sausages. All right, Jay, I want to start with a question here. You ready?
Sure. Wait, let me pull up a quick comment.
Go already. What do we got?
The new Cam, much younger looking. Hey,
really? Who looks younger?
You,
me or
you?
What?
I think you.
I don't
Maybe
think
it's the lighting. Maybe it's the.
I don't have any lighting
like
here.
That.
You know, there's no glare. The sun's out. I've got maybe the remnants of some sunlight coming in my office windows a little bit, but no, I actually have fairly sophisticated lighting, but even though we've got now the matte background, the matte background, there's still a little glare. So I was playing around with it last night, but my guys did a good job, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a different look, throw in, so it's not quite so, I don't want to say bland, but so like barren. I wanted to add a little something.
Yeah.
I do this for the Jets Collective. I did this with Stephen A. Hopefully you guys dig it. Now, I've got a question for you, Jay. Are you ready?
Sure. I'm ready.
I want to hear all your teams. List your I know you're a big Celtics fan, so list your professional teams for me. Go ahead.
All right, Celtics, Pats, Sox.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No, I got you. No, you do you. Go for it.
Bruins adjacently, but like not really.
I hear you. You're not a huge hockey fan, right?
Celtics, Pats, Red Sox are really my big.
Okay. I mean, really, you could have said the Cardinals. You could have said the Diamondbacks. You could have said, but it's just more of a fundamental view on starting with you, and then I'll give you my thoughts, and I'll branch into what Cohen said last night. Sure. So, as a fan of teams, right, I'm going to give you 4 options here in terms of an owner type, of owner. Do you prefer the first choice will be a silent, hands-off kind of an owner, number 1, a crazy owner, number 2, an unpredictable owner, meaning he's not crazy, but when he chimes in, it's interesting. Or do you prefer a measured owner? So silent, crazy, unpredictable, measured. What strikes you as appealing first?
My opinion, I'm going to say silent, but it's interesting because you look at like a team like the Celtics and then you look at a team like the Patriots where, okay, Robert Kraft, he's not this absolute lunatic, but clearly, he's he's said some things. He's been involved in some scandals as an owner. So there's a little bit more, I guess, not confusion there, but more energy coming his way, more attention directed towards the owner. Whereas if you look at like the Celtics from the past, 15, 20 years with the Grousebeck family at the helm.
You never hear their name.
Word not a damn word. And I loved it because I felt like they really let, the president of basketball operations, the general manager, kind of do their thing, and they stay out the limelight. I think that's how I prefer it.
Okay, I got you. And I think a lot of people will probably gravitate to that choice. You see, when you have a fairly silent owner, it projects stability. You know what I mean? Like it's the antithesis of, think George at his absolute worst or Al Davis at his absolute, like, remember when Al Davis fired Lane Kiffin and he had the overhead projector? Do you remember that?
What year?
Oh, God, geez. I think Lane was about 37 or 38 when he got that job. So, you're talking probably about 20-ish years ago. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, 2008. Yeah, I don't know if I'd remember that.
About 18 years ago. So, you don't necessarily want to have that wild presentation because it screams inconsistency. It screams desperation. It seems it screams sloppiness. All right. So, to me, and I'm not talking about the Mets. I'm not talking about Cohen. I'm not talking about nobody specific. Just overall, I think I would probably want, equal parts of all four. I think at the end of the day, but I would take pieces of each four, right?
Sure.
I think for me to start, I want an ownership group who is going to, number one, cut massive checks. Not going to bear any, like the facility is going to be top notch. The coaching staff, and I don't just mean the head coach, right, or the manager, coaching staff well paid, so people want to work there. But I think then the subset to that is they cut the checks, and the people that they hire to do their jobs, they allow them to do their jobs without stepping on their toes and without, getting their fingerprints on. Like Woody Johnson. Like Woody cuts the checks, but Woody can't keep his grubby hands off the cats. Like, so that's one example. I think that the one thing that you don't want, like when things go awry, I think a very silent owner, a very in the weeds owner, is not satisfying for a fan when a season ends in a tumultuous manner.
Yes.
Like if there's like an implosion, like for baseball, you lose 11 of 13, you miss out on the wild card, or you choke away a division, or you're up like the Yankees, when they were up 3-0 on the Red Sox in the ALCS back in 04. Like you got to hear something. Like you can't just, wow, Yankees had historical implosion. All right, I wonder what my owner's thinking. No, I don't want to have to wonder. I want to just flip on whatever I got to flip on. Back then, obviously, we consume things differently. And I want to hear how pissed off my owner is because it's a pound of flesh. Like, I do think that you want your owner, you want to feel that the owner hurts the way that you hurt. Like, even though it's more intimate and more personal for the owner, but most of these owners, outside of somebody like Steinbrenner, the Steinbrenner family, where it's handed even, Davis, Al to Mark, like these ownership groups come in, even though Steve Cohen's a Mets fan, some of these ownership groups come in and they may have been fans of different teams, or they may have been very passive sports fans. So I think really at the end of the day, there's a few things that are fairly non-negotiable. Number one, cut the checks. Number two, go and take big swings in terms of hiring, accomplished, well thought of people, and then pay out their staff so that they stay. Allow the GM to do their job. But when something goes wrong, you want to know that the owner's got a heartbeat. All right. So that's to me, that's why I say I think there's kind of equal parts everything. You want an element of unpredictability. I think to be measured, I think that's probably the real prudent path, because over the course of time, that will probably yield the best results. Yeah. Sometimes I think a little crazy is okay. I don't mind a little crazy myself. And then obviously to be fully silent and completely disengaged is not what I don't think anybody's really looking for. So having said that, Steve Cohen has had an interesting week and a half or so. Last week, remember, the Mets, now the Yankees didn't do this. The Mets moved up their game. It was cold. Yankees stayed pat. They played at 7:05, whatever it was. The Mets moved up from 7-4, which I thought was a pretty good proactive rather than being reactive. Hey, we understand that there's this thing called, weather.com, and there's meteorologists, and there's an ability to forecast what the next day is going to kind of look like. So if it looks that bad, do something about it. And if it's, 7 or 8 degrees warmer, or, 5 to 9 degrees less blustery in terms of wind, and logistically you can make it happen, move the game up. I thought it was a good gesture by the Mets. And the other gesture that he did was he obviously gave out, this is a big story. I didn't really get into it, but it was a big story in New York. He gave away a fair amount of tickets because, when you go from 7 o'clock to 4, logistically, it will impact some people who were going to go at 7 that maybe theoretically can't go at 4. So rather than just have the tickets, sit there in some digital bank, hand them out. Whoever goes. It's a good token of gratitude for the Met fans. Okay. Now, that's a great thing. I think that's awesome. I didn't really laud him on here because I didn't really feel the need to get into it, but I'll laud him now. I thought it was a good move by Steve Cohen. What's not a good move, though, is then when you give somebody a freebie, to then go and chastise them for not taking your freebie. Like, to me, that's a little counterproductive. Not enough to rail on Steve Cohen, not enough to go bonkers on Steve Cohen, but when he starts dropping numbers, 58% of the free tickets that I gave, people didn't take. Like, now you're getting a little bit in the weeds, and now you're looking a little bit petty. And to an extent, it offsets, for me, a little bit of the good that you did. Now, here we are. So that was a couple of days ago. Met fans are just playing. The Mets are playing anemically right now. 4 hits last night. They scored 1 run in the top of the first. Lindor finally had his first RBI, and hopefully that gets him going. His first home run. And the Mets don't score another run the rest of the game. They had, I think, 3 more hits. I think they finished with 4. Mets lose. The Mets look awful right now. All right. Now, before I get into Cohen's tweet, got to impress upon you further. Like, have we not learned one thing here, especially with the Mets and even to the Yankees? But because the Yankees have had a lot of years under Boone where they come out flying out of the chute, and then they play, basically 100 games of 500 baseball, and then they kind of regenerate in September, and they win a playoff round, or they win 2, or they get to the World Series like they did against the Dodgers a couple of years ago. They come up short. But like baseball, we should know this, even though we react with venom because we are emotionally invested in this stuff. You got to tap the brakes a little bit. Like, I do think that the Mets will be fine. The Mets have pitched pretty well. McClain is ridiculous. He is so good. And everything that I was saying over the winter with him and Schlittler, but he looks to be maybe even a tick in front of Schlittler. Like, if you're into the analytics, he threw a curveball last night that broke like a wiffle ball, like almost defied physics. And his RPMs, his revolutions, he's touching 3,000 spins. Like, that's real stuff. Like, that is real. I mean, that's a real problem. And then you throw high 90s and you got 5 or 6 pitches. He is a pleasure to watch. Nolan McClain is a superstar. And that young man stays healthy. I mean, I'll put the Hall of Fame tag on him now because I don't want to, I don't want to jinx the young man. But good God, he is awesome. All right, so you take that away, and obviously Peralta is going to be fine, and Soto's going to come back. And the Mets, I don't think the Mets are good enough to win a World Series or even get there because nobody's beaten the Dodgers this year. The Dodgers might be better this year, oddly, because we thought the gap was, so wide from the Dodgers and everybody else coming into the season. It's almost illogical to think that rather than shrinking or narrowing a bit, it seems like it's widened a little bit, and not just from the Dodgers to the Mets, but really from the Dodgers to everybody. Point is, now back to what I said before, it's a long race. It's 6 months. It's going to get a little monotonous when the Mets or the Braves or the Phillies or the Yankees or the Red Sox or Toronto or the Tigers or the Brewers or the Padres or the Cubs or, any other decent, they're going to go through these spurts where you can watch, maybe outside of the Dodgers, you can watch any team play baseball for 3 weeks and convince yourself that their flaws are fatal and there's nothing they can do to correct them, and it's never going to change, and it's not going to happen. And, you can rant and rave and bark at the moon and scream and shout, and it's cathartic. Doesn't change anything. That's one side of the coin. The other side is for 3 weeks, conversely, they can hit the crap out of the ball. Their starting pitchers could go deep. Their bullpen arms could be on lock. They could run the bases with great aptitude. They could catch everything that's hit their way. And they look like, and I'm talking about any team now, any high, maybe not the Rockies, but any good to potentially great team, there's going to be fluctuations. I don't care who you are. So I am starting this conversation, not pronouncing the Mets dead. I've learned my lesson years ago, especially with them, especially under Steve Cohen, because Steve Cohen's been here, 5 or 6 years? The Mets have made the playoffs twice, and they've had these riveting runs. The Mets twice have started the season like gangbusters, where the Mets might win 100 games, and they flail out, and they burn, and they just implode in fantastic, crazy fashion. And we've also had the opposite where the Mets start out 0-5 and they look feeble and they look awful. And then they find a way to regenerate and then they kick it into high gear as they get deeper into the season. So this is not some bold proclamation that the Mets are done. But now let's get to the Steve Cohen tweet. I got to help Steve out. I don't know Steve. I don't dislike Steve. I'm more inclined to like him than not. But this is not going to help him. All right, so he tweets this after the game. This was a few days after the ticket tweet, right? Quote, nobody likes to lose, but I saw some green shoots tonight. On offense, Lindor had 2 hits, including a home run. I mean, he is making $35 million a year. It's about time. Bichette got a double hitting it to left field as opposed to recently being right field prone. And just as a quick aside, doesn't that just seem like a guy who doesn't know baseball, right field prone? Just the way he words it. Benj got a solid hit. Soto starting his running progression today. Simeon hit, this is the worst part. Simeon hit a shot that might have been a home run on a warmer night. I mean, now we're handing out consolation prizes. All right, Joey, your rec team finished in 4th place. Here's a trophy. Oh, Billy, congrats. Your team was 2-9 in rec ball. Here's a ribbon. Oh, little Susie, your softball team didn't quite win it. You guys were 4-11. But because everybody, in the modern consumption of sport, we've got to make everybody feel good. Here's a little something for you, little Susie. Go get them. I mean, come on. That part is embarrassing. Simeon hit a shot that might have been a home run on a warmer night. Finally, and this part is on the money, obviously McClain pitched an outstanding game, 7 innings, blah, blah, blah. Hang in there, fans. That part I love. We will turn this around. And this goes to the part about that level of engagement that I do like. When things are awry and things are bleak, I think that it's actually good to reinforce some positive messaging. But I think that the Steve Cohen era is a very interesting one at this point. It started with great acclaim. It started with great fanfare. It started by his own admission. I believe it was a 5-year window for a championship, which he later amended. And I didn't have an issue with him when he said that, because to me, at that point, at that juncture in their fandom, especially the older Met fans, like the Met fans needed to be galvanized. And when you buy a team and you sit there at a podium, and you've got your Mets hat on, and you're one of them, you just happen to have, at that point, I think it was 17 or 18 bill. I think it's up to 23 now, whatever his net worth is. I thought that was good. I thought it was relatable. I thought it was encouraging. I thought it galvanizing. I thought it was promising. I thought it was on point. And listen, I think Steve Cohen has done a good job as the owner of the Mets. Certainly not great. And very well, this might be this year, based on everything that's transpired. Pete shipped out, Nimmo shipped out, Diaz, obviously, a change of culture, a change of the core, which, as I believe was necessary, but it's still got to work out. Bringing in David Stearns, allowing David Stearns to do all the things that he's done, to me, this is kind of the break. Right now, if I was to give Steve Cohen, let's see, I would say, now this is including everything. So let me take a step back. I think one of the best things that Steve has done is that he has reconnected the roots of the franchise to the actual franchise. So it's no longer the New York Dodgers or the Brooklyn Mets, and that was a massive issue when that stadium first opened, because the Wilpons, and you talk about bootlicking the Brooklyn Dodgers. I mean, you own the Mets, and I think a lot of times the Wilpons forgot that. So Cohen came in with a vision of certainly, this stately vision and elevating the Mets, and nobody has spent more money since he took over the Mets. I believe they even have spent more money than the Dodgers. I think he's won 53% of his games, 2 postseason appearances, as I said. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, but I think there's certainly more good than bad. And I think when you walk into Citi Field, I haven't been there this year yet. I will be. I went to 3 Met games a year ago. You know that I like Citi Field. You know what he's doing around the area. And he's going to build it up. And he's going to make it big time, right? But when you walk in there, the Jackie Robinson Rotunda, unlike when it first opened up in 2009, you walk in there, you're like, all right, Duke Snyder, all right, Jackie Robinson, all right, great luminaries of Brooklyn baseball, all right, fantastic. Can I see a little Keith, Doc, and Darryl? Can I see a little Jerry Koosman? Can I see a little more Tom Seaver? So all the things, like, to me, the evaluation of Cohen it's multi-pronged here. Number one, he has spent an inordinate amount of money and resources that he's put in, whether it's the minor league complex, the minor league facility, like all the things, the updated analytics where the Mets were lagging behind for a while with that. And that is all updated and all modernized. So he spent money on the roster that you watch every night. The infrastructure of the franchise is far healthier than it's ever been. You know, you took Juan Soto from the Yankees, big boy play, big boy swing, all right? You went after Yamamoto, didn't get him, but you went after him. You know, you pivoted quickly from Tucker to Pichette. You know, you got Peralta. You brought in Stearns, the young whiz kid at that point that I don't know if Joe Beningo wanted him. Joe always rails on him. But at that point, most of you wanted him, and you've changed in large part like the fabric and I think the culture of the Mets to an extent, because the culture doesn't fully change until there's consistency. And there are still these maddening spikes. 1 year really good, 1 year confounding, 1 year really good, 1 year incredibly disappointing and confounding, right? So he's not getting an A, and he's not getting an A. Like you get an A when you win the World Series, right? He's not getting an A minus because there have been too many fluctuations. I would give Steve Cohen, I would give him probably at least a B, and I'm even thinking of going to B plus. But he's got to stop tweeting because that seemed minor league last night. And I really am trying to be fair. Listen, the easiest thing for me to do will be to fire up the camera today, get on the air, dump all over Cohen, yell and scream and mock him. I'm not going to do that because I don't feel any need to do that because I don't think that it's with merit. I think Steve Cohen is much more good than not. I think he's much better than the Wilpons, but that doesn't mean he's what you thought he would be when he announced to the world that he's going to change how the Mets are ultimately perceived. Because here we are, guys. You know, roll out the old band, you know, like Journey playing some old songs, and I love Journey. Hey, you know, here's Doc, 40th anniversary of the championship. Come on out. Hey, here's Daryl. Here's Lenny, who that was a good story over the weekend. If you guys saw this, Daryl took Lenny Dykstra under his wing. Lenny's been a mess. You know, drugs, gambling, jail, all that stuff. And Daryl's kind of been there as well. So I like that Daryl reached out, and I believe that Lenny's going to be there. I heard that he was for that 40-year celebration. There's Mookie, you know, there's Ronnie, there's Keith, there's all the guys. Ray Knight hopefully comes back. All right, maybe Kevin Mitchell comes back. That's all good. But the fact does remain, and this is what it's all about, the fact does remain that the last time the Mets won a World Series, I was listening to Run DMC on a tape that I had to rewind to get back to the good parts, whether it was Peter Piper or my Adidas or the Coliseum. You know, Air Jordans weren't retro. They had just come out. Dwight Gooden was about 20 years old. He's basically 60 now. You know, they were playing in Shea Stadium, and you know, the world's changed. It's a long time. So there's a lot with Steve Cohen. And I also do think, right, now I can't speak for Met fans here. There's been a lot of politics around the Mets. Now, you could also say that there's been politics around the Yankees when they welcomed President Trump into the clubhouse. I think that was last year, right? And I think everybody knows that Trump and Steinbrenner have a good relationship. I think not by now. Certainly everybody knows that, you know, Cohen, I think you know which way he leans, and that's certainly his prerogative. You certainly know which way Francisco Lindor's wife leans, which I would imagine by extension, Francisco Lindor leans that way. And he can only deduce, at least this is part of the thought behind it. One of the reasons that Pete and Nimmo were shipped out is because of their politics. And then I saw something the other day, I'm not trying to, try to throw, strays at Mr. and Mrs. Met, but they were, hugging the mayor of New York, and a lot of people have an issue with the mayor of New York. So there is a lot of energy. I saw my buddy Sid Rosenberg, who I've known forever. I love Sid, very talented guy. Sid's now a Yankee fan. I'm on social. Did you guys see this? I'm on social media last night, and I see he's out of his mind, man. He's hysterical. I see Sid posting, and I think it was because of the mayor and the Mr. and Mrs. Met relationship. I think that was the final straw for Sid. And if not, then I apologize. But I think that was the impetus to him changing finally. I know he's been disgruntled with a bunch of things there. But I saw a video of Johnny Damon welcoming Sid as a Yankee fan. I saw a picture this morning that Sid posted, a big box of Yankee jerseys that apparently the Yankees sent to Sid. I saw a Reggie jersey. I think I maybe saw a Thurman Munson jersey. I saw a video right before I came on the air of Tino Martinez welcoming Sid Rosenberg to the Yankee family. So there are a lot of high-profile Met fans that aren't happy with the Mets. There's a lot here, okay? There's a lot of noise around these Mets now. Maybe last night was a foreshadow of a 3-week binge where Lindor is going to go back to being Lindor. And, maybe maybe Polanco starts raking. Bichette's going to eventually really, truly hit. And as the owner pointed out, he finally hit one to left rather than right. But it's an odd evaluation because it is early, but last year was miserable. And the misery and the confusion and the lack of buttoned up play, and obviously the record now 7-11 through 18 games. Now, nobody's going to run away with this thing yet. It's early and it's very jumbled outside of maybe the Dodgers in terms of the best record in baseball. But as I chronicled yesterday, pretty much every division is very tight. So there's plenty of room for the Mets to get their act together. And listen, if Peterson spits the bid or Senga doesn't get his act together, there's a little recent evidence that maybe Sean Manaea is going to become more viable. You got to have leads for Devin Williams to actually get saves. But I think at the end of the day, I think the back end of the bullpen will be good. I know Rarely chalked one up the other night, but he's been very, very good for well over a year. So it's not the end of the earth. But if I'm Steve Cohen, and it's his team, and it's his right, and it's not that he's tweeting out like inflammatory and sensitive stuff, although many of you had an issue with the 58% of the free tickets going unused. It's just lay out, man. Just lay out, man. Lay out. Let the baseball stuff take care of itself. Let Mendoza get this team to a place that they need to be. And let's see ultimately if all of these moves, the big moves, like franchise-altering moves, franchise-defining moves that the general manager decided to do, let's at least give them a little runway to see if it's going to work. Can we at least do that? I get it. It's baseball. You love it. I love it. We're temperamental. That's what separates New York baseball fans from most, New York, Philly, Boston, maybe one or two others, but it's a different energy, all right? It's a different pursuit of results. So we all know the game by now, but haven't we learned, even going back to the Nationals when they won the World Series, when Juan Soto was 19, they started the year 19-31. It is a long, long season. All right, Mo Cage. What up, Mo? He's got to stop talking to the fans through social media and start talking by winning. Well, I mean, listen, that would be optimal. I will say this, though. I wouldn't mind. Now, he's not going to do it. I wouldn't mind the occasional tweet from Hal. Hal, you got a pulse? Is this thing? I don't want to hit the camera because it might shut off, but this thing on? Hello? Yo, are we on? J-Rod, are we on? Check, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Check, 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay it's your team, so it is your prerogative to do whatever you want. And I do think if it's well-timed and it hits the mark from a messaging point of view, I do think that, now I don't know that it's going to be productive on the field, but I do think it could be either cathartic or inspiring or reassuring to a fan base, which is why I started this conversation asking J-Rod, and then obviously by extension asking the BT Unleashed fam, I mean, what kind of owner do you want? Do you want the silent type who's completely disengaged, who's on some island, looking at his hedge fund, just cutting checks and has no real connection? That's not. He's got the hedge funds, but he cares about the Mets. Is he crazy? No, he's not crazy. Is he unpredictable? Not really. No, I don't think that would be a fair characterization. Is he measured? I think of all those, he's probably more measured than anything.
Yeah.
But you got to start winning. You got to start playing better. Otherwise, a fairly innocuous tweet, you're going to start getting clowned and people are going to start turning against you. Like there is, and again, to what extent, I don't know, and I don't profess to know. But there is a divide for some Met fans with the political affiliation and direction of the Mets. To me, that's undeniable. Now, that's something that you're going to have to go through and process. Whichever way you lean, I respect it. I don't shove it down your throat. Never have, never will. You follow me for sports. If there's a world issue that really supersedes sports, and there are some things going on now, but like if it really is, if I believe where I just can't justify getting on the air and talking about something sports related because it would just be obtuse, I'm not going to do that. I am a husband. I am a father. I am a concerned citizen. So I follow all this stuff. I've told you I watch the news every night. It's how I fall asleep unless the Yanks or the Mets or the Mets are on the West Coast. But there's no doubt. There's a faction. I don't know what percentage. I'm not even going to attempt to quantify, but there is and I would say a growing faction of Met fans who are either disconcerted or disenfranchised based on the very clear leanings of the Mets politically. I'll leave it at that. To me, that's irrefutable. You'd have to be a dope. You'd have to be clueless not to see that and not to feel that. And then that's up to you as a consumer to react accordingly. Not up to me to tell you what to do or how to feel. Big Trouble Media, I believe. Is that the first? We have a new member of the BT Unleashed fam.
Super chat. Thank you, Big Trouble Media.
All right, there we go. Appreciate the shout out. Thank you there, Mr. Big Trouble Media. As a Mets fan, I'm numb to the losing, but there needs to be a skipper change. We are still collapsing from last season. All right. You're not going to get rid of Mendoza yet. I do believe there will be a point in time, if this is not cleaned up fairly soon, you've got to at least let Soto get back. Like, to me, that's there. To me, now, some of you disagree, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. And maybe Cohen sees it more like you. There should be no real true, constant dissection and discussion of Mendoza's job security yet. That will come, all right? Because I brought this up at the end of last season, stopped short of saying I wouldn't bring him back. I brought it up going into the season, and I've even mentioned it at points early this year. But that's different from saying fire him. I'm not there yet. Now, I don't really believe that Mendoza has the personality. If the Mets internally, like if the Met, like the whatever the core, it's a new core. If the Met players can't dig down and find it themselves, I don't love his post-game press conferences. Very vanilla, and most of these guys are fairly vanilla. So I'm not sure I'm trying to be unfair to Mendoza, but he doesn't project ultimate authority. And when things are going sloppily and haphazardly and clearly in the wrong direction, which they are, you better find a way to fix it soon or Mendoza will be out. I mean, it's just that simple. This is not coaching a little travel team in town where, you win, great, you lose, whatever. Okay. You're not going to get fired because you're not getting paid. You're doing it because you love it and you want to help kids, fall in love with the game and teach them life lessons and all that stuff that a lot of us do as coaches. But, I can get fired, if you lose 5-4 in the semis because you sent the kid, tagging up at third base and it was a close play and the parents think it was the wrong call, then you lose by a run, It just doesn't work that way. It's not pro sports. This is. And this is big business, and this is big expectation, and this is big money. And right now the results are not there. And it's a little compounded by the fact that the owner seems to miss the mark a little too often with his tweets. You know what I mean? At least that's what I think. Let me get Charlie. We get Charlie F6675. Chuck, what's happening? Stearns did a good job fixing the starting pitching this year. However, he created an offensive mess by dissembling the Mets core, which Met fans were mostly against. It's early, but by end of year, Stearns is out. Could be. Yeah. I mean, if the Mets win, now it kind of helps. I know we hit a home run the other day. It kind of helps that Pete's not hitting 309 with 8 home runs and, on pace to be the April player of the month, and Baltimore's 12-4, whatever it might be. He's languishing. Baltimore's languishing. But this was a monumental seismic shift in the direction of the Mets, and that is fully at the doorstep of David Stearns, which is great if it works out because there's no one else is going to get the credit other than you because you're the one who's hitting these levers here. All right, Pete, you know what? And I just know that this is baseball philosophy, and I happen to agree with this because I am not a Mets fan. And, I have stripped away sentimentality, even though I know it didn't seem like I really liked Pete all those years on the fan. I did. I really like Pete. My issue with whether it's Pete or other players, like when they're positioned more than they are, or you're talking a long-term commitment, I've got to incorporate some real baseball sensibility, things that I subscribe to. Now, it's certainly your right to push back. Many of you did. It's certainly your right to agree. Many of you have. But when you're 30, early 30s, righty, doesn't throw the ball well at first. I know he picks it well. I get that. Prodigious power, got it. I didn't think he was going to age very well. He's not a plus defender. He's not a plus runner. He's a minus runner. Throwing the ball, he's a minus defender. And again, it was more like if he was some great leader that I didn't think the Mets could function without. Like if he was clearly captain material and guys gravitated to him, then I may have had a little bit of a different take and may have been willing to sacrifice some of that baseball sensibility, because to me, there's things that you can't quantify, whether it's Fangraphs or Baseball Savant. If I thought, and nobody thought this, but if I thought that Pete was the indisputable leader of the New York Mets, even being 30 and being a righty first baseman, blah, 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 all the things I've espoused for now a couple of years, and I was proven right, at least from a philosophical point of view, because the Mets moved on from him. They weren't getting him 4 years. Think about what they did the year before, coming off a heck of a season. He had 1+1. He opted out. Baltimore said, here's 5 years. Mets said, see ya. So they obviously felt the way that I felt. But yeah, I mean, you brought in David Stearns to alter the universe and get to a championship. And the pitching is definitely better, which is why I'm not going nuts about the ultimate prospects of the Mets. I still think when it's all said and done, now, if this goes on another couple of weeks, I'm going to have to amend my preseason position here. I think I said the Mets would win 91 games and would be a wild card team. I'm not going to jump off that just because we played 3 weeks, whatever it is, of uninspiring, disconnected baseball. I'm not going to say that. You got to let Soto get back, and you got to let things root a little bit. Let's see where they are when McClain has 12 to 13 starts, and Peralta is, fully filthy Peralta, which I believe he will be. And then let's see where the Mets are when Bichette hits 327 for a month, which I promise you he's going to. There's just things. It's. I know we want it now, but it's not like the NBA. Listen, I've always said this. You think about it. So, Jay, pop in for a sec, buddy. Think about the NBA playoffs that we're getting. I know it started with the playing games and all that stuff, right? How about Melo? How about ball last night, huh?
Dude, those games were wild. I don't know if you watched the Trailblazers game.
No, I saw the highlights.
Any of it?
I saw the highlights.
Was ridiculous.
I saw the highlights. Yeah, no, I was watching the Mets, and my son had a game, and I had a bunch of stuff going on. But I did. Speaking of the Blazers, as a quick aside, have you seen the documentary on Netflix, Jailblazers?
Dude, my roommate was watching it yesterday. I didn't watch it with him, but he said it's really good.
You got to watch this because this is before your time. It was really, really well done. Like I think it was an hour and 10 minutes, and it was so worth it. Like, Rasheed Wallace and Damon Stoudemire, and then eventually, Zach Randolph got there. Bonzi Wells. I mean, they just had a cast of characters that was wow. Really, really well done. But the point is, like, as we get deeper, there might be an anomaly in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I don't mean like a 1 seed or a 2 seed losing, but something quirky might happen.
Sure.
Or a star might not shoot well. But I've always said this, like, you're never going to see somebody like Durant or Steph or LeBron or Jalen Brunson, not to equate all 4 or 5. I'm not saying Brunson's quite like Durant, but you know what I mean. He's the best player on the Knicks by far, and he's one of the most clutch players in the NBA. You're not going to see this precipitous drop from 25.5 points a game in a regular season to Jalen Brunson averaged 9 points, in the Eastern Conference. No, you'll never see that ever. So, but you do see Aaron Judge hitting the $180 in a playoff series, or Ted Williams in a very limited sample scuffling, or Willie Mays in a very limited sample having an OPS under 700, may have been under 600, at least under 7. A small sample, but I mean, you can make the case Willie Mays might be the greatest player in the history of baseball. I know a lot of people say Babe Ruth. You could also say Hank Aaron, who gets glossed over for some reason. To me, Hank is kind of like Kareem, in the sense like, MJ, LeBron, Magic, Bird, Oscar, Will, Russell. Hey, how about Kareem? Can we say Kareem?
Yeah.
And very similar to when you start ripping off the luminaries of the great game of baseball, you get Ruth, you get Mays, you get Mantle, you get Gehrig, you get Tris Speaker, you get Stan Musial, you get Ty Cobb. Oh, yeah, Hank Aaron. He was pretty good, too.
Yeah.
Well, people just kind of associate Hank. I don't mean those who really love the game, but Hank, he's got the most home runs, or he had. To me, he's still the home run king. But no, look at the RBIs, look at the doubles, look at the All-Star appearances, look at everything he did. It's just ridiculous how he gets glossed over. But even a guy like Hank Aaron, or even, I'm sure Babe Ruth had a series. Now, there was no wild cards, and it was different. But I promise you, Babe Ruth, every single playoff series he had, I promise you, did not hit 375 with 6 home runs and an OPS of 1,200. Doesn't work that way. So I just point that out because if there's going to be fluctuations on the greatest stage of baseball by the greatest players in the history of baseball, why wouldn't there be fluctuations with good players or average players or even great players during the early stages of baseball? It's still the same sport with the same fail rate. It's just a different stage, but it's the same premise. Yeah. So that's where I am with the Mets, and that's where I am with Cohen. But it doesn't look good. I mean, it can't scratch out a hit. Let me get Ken C-N7N. Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate that. Kenny from Yonkers. The more I hear about
one.
What's that?
Another new one.
Another new one. Welcome to the fam. Very nice. Love it.
Appreciate
That's
it,
awesome,
Ken.
dude. I love how it's growing. That is great. Ken from Yonkers. Thank you, Ken. So the more I hear about last year's clubhouse, they should have traded Lindor. He's the one who had a problem with everybody. Nimmo, Soto, etc. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I know Cohen said he's never going to name a captain. Got it. Okay, we've talked about that and mentioned it when he first said it. It came up the other day on the show. But for everybody that was, basically making him the captain, the fact that they never made him the captain should probably tell you a little something. Now, I don't need a captain in baseball. I don't even need a captain in basketball. I need a captain and I need an A on a sweater in hockey, and that's it. And obviously, in football, you're going to have a middle linebacker calling out the plays, whatever it might be. The green dot. Okay. Communication with the coaches. You need that in that kind of a sport where you've got to get guys in the right spot. The communication is vital, right? Where, in baseball, the only time you really communicate, obviously the catcher putting down signs and say a pop-up, I got it. The other guy backs off or he doesn't. And that's kind of, or cut, hey, left, cut, let it go. Like in terms of relays, it's kind of it. And really, what kind of communication is there in baseball? So while, David Wright, I thought was a great captain, but I thought Keith was a great captain because even though he was wild in St. Louis and still had a little bit of an edge when he got here, he was more mature. He had been through his drug trials. He had really gone through some self-imposed tribulations. And I thought Keith being the captain for that team was perfect. Now, it didn't help necessarily because Darryl stepped out of line and Doc was a mess. And they ridiculously got rid of Kevin Mitchell because they thought that he was the problem and he wasn't. But you had so many young guys coming up and it was a tumultuous time, the 80s and drugs and Wall Street and, players first starting to make real money. I thought that was a good spot for a captain. Does Aaron Judge need to be the captain of the Yankees? I don't think that he does. I love that he is because I don't know that you can represent a brand or really humanity any better than Aaron Judge represents the brand and humanity. I thought Derek Jeter was a captain by example. I could promise you that, when somebody say Pedro threw over Karim Garcia's head, you guys remember that? Or there was a fracas out in the outfield bullpen. Remember that? I think Jeff Nelson was involved in that. Or when Armando Benitez hit Tino after was that Tim Raines after the Raines home run or Bird, one of those guys, but he got hit after a home run. I think it was Raines. Could be Bernie either way. Maybe I have to invert that. But he got drilled and that wound up hurting him for most of the season and it altered his numbers. And they had this massive fight that spilled into the dugout. I can promise you that after that game, Derek Jeter, even though he was the captain, was not addressing the team. That would have been somebody especially as you got deeper into those Yankee teams where Posada was the starting catcher. That's Posada territory. That's Darryl. I think maybe that night stepping up and saying something. That's somebody like Tino who was, gritty and didn't say a lot, but kind of a tough guy, or an O'Neal. That wasn't Derek's role. And the captaincy can be worn many different ways. You could have an emotional captain like Josh Hart. even though he's not a captain. To me, in a lot of ways, he exudes captaincy for the Knicks on a night-to-night basis. But he's not the captain. Very easily could be. So, yeah, I mean, I remember Sal saying, I don't know when it was, but at some point bringing up the thought of, hey, maybe the Mets should trade Lindor. Maybe they should be open to it. I mean, let's face it, guys. Francisco Lindor, and I'm not dropping this all at his doorstep. I'm not. Lindor's been here for over a half a decade at this point. And when you really think about his tenure, and I'm not attributing this all to him, that would be unfair. But when you think about Lindor's run as a Met, haven't there been more issues than high points, whether it's infighting, perceived or real, with McNeil and the raccoon? And, well, I mean, things happen. I didn't really care that much back then. But, I mean, and now you see on opening day, and I didn't make much of this because I don't want to be unfair. He just had hand surgery. I don't know. Maybe it's that. But, like, if you saw, as they were introduced along the first base line there, if you saw the exchanges with Soto and everybody else, and then you saw the exchange with Soto and Lindor, and then you just kind of, piece together the other things that have happened or have been whispered to have happened behind closed doors, it's pretty freaking hard not to sit there and say, I mean, maybe it is Lindor a little bit. The one thing about Francisco Lindor, he's a really good player. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best shortstops in baseball. But night to night, he's not so great. He's not so all time that whatever he is bringing in terms of maybe some other stuff or some other baggage, if true, or some other noise, that it's always fully worth it. So if you told me that the Mets, whether it's this past offseason or at the deadline or this offseason coming up, going into if there's even baseball in 2027, that somebody offers, something enticing for Lindor. And at this point, I'm not really sure why you would, because he's got a lot of money. He's got a couple of years to go. Not quite the same defensive player that he was. Look back at last year's numbers. He obviously starts slow. He's a little bit up and down in terms of statistical performance. But if that ever crossed Stearns' table, you'd be an idiot not to investigate it further. And then I think you'd be a dope not to pursue it. And if it makes sense, I mean, even if you get 85 cents on the dollar, I think that you pull the trigger. I would, like, if I'm running the Mets. Like, I have no problem saying that it's probably, time more so than not to turn the page and move on from the Francisco Lindor era. And there's a chance in a year or two that entire core is wiped out. And it's Soto and hopefully Benj, if he develops. And I like him. He's young. Polanco's going to be gone at that point. Simeon will be gone at that point. Hopefully Alvarez and, some others and Tong and Christian Scott and some of their other young pitchers, obviously McLean. I don't know. But it just seems like every year there's just something about the Mets that's either off or just wildly inconsistent, or there's some sort of friction. Shouldn't be that way. Like, it shouldn't be that hard every year with that payroll to just have a consistently good year. Like, that shouldn't be that evasive, but it has been so far. Let me get Vince, 908. BT, do you I think you meant, do you agree with me? If the Mets stood pat and didn't move, yep, Alonso and McNeil, they would probably be in worse shape right now. I definitely agree with the moves that Stearns made. Well, I don't think the time to write that to me is today, Vince, with all due respect. And thank you for that. Only because the Mets are 7-11. Like, if the Mets were 12-6, if the Mets were 13-5, all right, you can puff out your chest and say, you see, it was the core. It wasn't right. The chemistry was off. They didn't complement each other well. All right, hey, good moves. But they're 7-11. They had 4 hits last night. They were lucky if they score a run. I mean, they were at home for 6 games? They had 5 extra base hits. You look up, it's 0 after 0 after 0 after 0. And there's also been, and many have been attributed to Lindor, too many moments where you're like, is this team even buttoned up or locked in and focused? So I wouldn't say that now. I don't think that that's the time to write that. But if you believe that, that's fine. Marciano 1320. I know a team who needs a leadoff batter and a shortstop. The Yankees. Mets should ship him to the Yankees. I don't want Lindor. I'm good. I don't want Lindor. No. I mean, that's a short answer. I don't want Francisco Lindor on the Yankees. They would never make that high profile of a trade. What I want is now, and the Yankees have their own issues. Listen, the more that Aaron Boone sits Ben Rice, the more I'm going to just start getting on Aaron Boone. Enough of this nonsense. Enough of this sitting Ben Rice. Ben Rice needs to play every single day. All right. So let's say you're facing the Red Sox. Ben Rice is looking good or even looking bad. You want to give him a day off against Scooble. You want to get Garrett Crochet. If Randy Johnson was pitching, all right. Steve Carlton with that nasty wipeout slider, all right. I got it. There is no reason. There's no rhyme or reason to sitting Ben Rice with this C- lineup. Hold on. So last night, just so you know, I'm not some Met hater. I'm an equal opportunist basher when it's time to bash. Last night, aside from getting their ass kicked again, the Yankees trotted out this lineup. All right, this was their lineup, and understand, guys, their payroll is $330 million. This is what the Yankees thought was a good lineup to roll out. Goldschmidt, age 38, batting leadoff. Don't like it. Aaron Judge second. He's the man. Rosario batting third. I like that he's on the team. He's got a role. He mashes against lefties. I don't love him on defense, but batting third. Rosario. In the 4-hole. All right, obviously, Stanton going to run him out there until he's no longer here. Trent Grisham. I know he hit a couple of bombs the night before. Stunner. 3 strikeouts, 0 for 4. Back to hitting $160. Grichuk, who finally had a hit, first hit of the year. Austin Wells, who's hitting 190. Caballero. That's the Yankees lineup. Goldschmidt, Judge, Rosario, Stanton, Grisham, Grichuk, Wells, and Caballero. And the Yankees have a $333 million payroll. And I know most of it's devoted to pitching. That's kind of the point. If you are spending that kind of money on a major league team and you run out that kind of lineup once, you should be banned from baseball. And that's more on Cashman than on Boone. But I didn't like Ben Rice not play. And then what Aaron said, I like to be able to fire I don't know, hit the button, fire the button with Benny in a spot to pinch hit to get a sac fly when you're losing 7-0. Would you play him every day? Here's the only variance to Ben Rice. This is the only thing that should change. When there's a righty, Ben Rice should be batting third every single game. It should be, what it should be is at this point, until they find something better from a trade, Quan, whatever, Bellinger 1, lefty. Aaron Judge 2, righty. Ben Rice 3, lefty. Giancarlo Stanton 4, righty. That should be it. Every single, I don't care. Well, I almost said somebody that's no longer with us. So I don't care if Pedro comes out of retirement and entices some team to sign him, and he's still filthy with that sick changeup and throwing gas upstairs and unhittable. I think he might be the greatest, he or Seaver, the greatest right-handed pitchers of all time. That's why I said I pull Pedro. If Pedro comes out of retirement and is vintage Pedro, Ben Rice should still hit third. It should be Bellinger, who can hit and run, Judge, who can hit and run, Rice, who can mash and is always on base, and then Stanton, who's going to start running into some home runs. That, again, the only variant should be when you have a tough lefty, I wouldn't even sit him. All right, let's drop him down to 5 or 6. You're facing Crochet. You're out in Comerica against the Tigers, where the Tigers roll, Schoolbull go, fine. Then you drop him. That lineup last night was sickening. It was repulsive, the lineup that the Yankees ran out last night. And I don't care that it's April. I don't. I remember, I don't want to contradict myself because I do believe this, but when you're not playing well, the experiment's got to stop. If you're playing well, and you want to mess around, you want to maybe sacrifice a game in April for the greater good, I get that. Because what I remember saying on the Fan last year, what baseball's turned into, really, is the first part of the first 40 games. See what you got. This applies to any team. So outside of maybe the Rockies and 3 or 4 or 5 other teams, every other team that has a chance to win, see what you have for the first 40. Break spring training. Start the season, play 40, see what you got. The next 40 games after that should be an acknowledgement of what you don't have and then the pursuit as you lead up to the deadline, eventually to get what you don't have. And then once you do that, then the final 40-ish games, or whatever percentage you want to attribute to it, right, is now everything coalescing, hopefully, and then you making your run and really tightening things up with the adjustments that have addressed the weaknesses, and now it's full board, let's go get a championship. So see what you got, get what you don't, and then run out what you have based on what you didn't that you got. But you can't, when you look the way that they look, lose 5 straight, shoot out with the Angels, and then you trot that lineup out there. It's just mystifying. I don't get it. I really don't. And I would say that to Aaron. I will ask Aaron that when I get him up. Like, I don't know how you write out that lineup. I just don't know how. It makes no sense to me. Again, a lot of that's on Cashman. $333 million, and those are the names that you're giving the manager a chance to run out. But I can't exonerate Aaron Boone fully because he sat Ben Rice. Outside of Aaron Judge, he's the best hitter on the team. And the other guys stink. So it's not like you got, Tino and Bernie and Posada and obviously Jeter, and whether it's Nobby at second or Soriano, whatever it might be. You got 6 guys who stink, who play every night. So we do have some baseball issues here, in case you couldn't tell. Right, Jay? The Yankees made the World Series in 2024 by throwing the same exact lineup every single day and day in and day out. People knew their role. I believe in that. 100% I believe in that. It's not, it's athletes are creatures of habit. They just are, and they always will be. All right. So whether it's, and now Mike Brown's going to have to show that he can handle this, like his rotation and the allocation of minutes. He started to figure things out a little bit at the end and a little more pick and roll with Cat and Brunson, which is why I'm probably as enthused about the Knicks as I've been probably since they won the Cup, because after that, they fell. And then I've had myriad issues with them since. But it's all about identifying what players do well, what they don't, and then putting them in a spot to succeed inevitably. And when guys are bouncing around, like there's a routine that you just want to know that you're going to hit certain point each day. You're going to hit, whether it's in the 2 or 3 hole, you're getting up right away. If you're hitting 5, you probably, you might not get up in the first inning. You know who's in front of you. You can look at pitch patterns. Like there's a commonality, I think, to teams that really win big. Ultimately, there's a consistency in terms of who they run out there. You know what I mean?
No, big time.
Hang on, Jay. I got to grab something. Hold on one second.
No, you're chilling.
Shut something off there. Okay. Yeah.
Back at it.
Say you chilling?
If Lombard is called up, where is he in the lineup? Marciano.
Well, I mean, listen, it's early for him. It's early. I saw him bang another one last night. Zach Wheeler, a ringing double the other way. Although that probably wouldn't be good for Steve Cohen because he doesn't like when Bichette goes the other way, which is what good hitters usually do, which is part of the reason why, I was having a little fun with the tweet that I put out. But while I defend Cohen kind of a little bit today, that just made no sense from a baseball point of view, because think about this. If you've ever played baseball, certainly when you take BP, the last thing you want to do is just try to hammer, room service, 60-mile-per-hour meatball batting practice pitches from some 60-year-old coach, 473 feet. That does nothing. You've got to have a plan. And really the plan is whether you're 8 years old or 27 or 33 or, Judge or Trout, really what you want to do, you want to let the ball travel deep, because when you let the ball travel deep, you're not out in front. And now at a young age, that you could get away with it because the change-ups and the curves aren't as biting and they don't throw it as much. But so you can kind of sit fastball, you could almost sell out. But there's a real expiration point for that. And depending upon how high of a level you play, on the youth level, it might be as soon as 10 or 11 years old if you're playing against some of these great young players, because they can mix in the change, hopefully not curves, but certainly change-ups. Anyway, when you let the ball travel deep, you're going to hit it up the middle and you're going to hit it the other way. How many times have you heard, whether it's O'Neill or Girardi or Keith, when you're watching a Yankee, and I'm sure all the other broadcasters do it around baseball as well, when you're watching a Yankee or a Met game and there's a guy who's in a funk, like 1 for 17, 2 for 20, and he rifles a base hit the other way, almost all the time they will point out, hey, that could be a good sign you know, is getting a little bit more locked in. That's why when you're taking BP, you should be trying to hit the try to hit the L screen. Try to send it back. Like, do some situational stuff. Hit them up the middle, hit some the other way, and then obviously, you know, smash some and then, you know, kind of build out the portfolio of swings. But yes, back to Lombard, because he did hit one to right field last night. Looks phenomenal. You know, he's beginning to grow into his body. He's almost 6'3". He's 191 pounds. He can run. His defense has been, certainly last year, ahead of his offense, where he struggled at Double-A after ripping apart High A. Now he's at Double-A. You know, he faced a terrific major league pitcher on a rehab assignment. I read some of the comments Zach Wheeler said post-game, reading his swings. He's like, he's you know, that doesn't mean he's going to be right, but makes you feel a little bit better about it. Like, Zach's like, no, he's got a plan. And his swing, he's actually said his swing is really on plane, which means even if he's fooled a little bit, his bat path and his barrel is in the right spot. And you do that more times than not, you're going to have more success, right? So I promise you, if you take somebody like an Austin Wells or a Volpe, who came back last night as well, 0 for 2 strikeouts, but just getting going here. If you look at those lower average, lower on base guys, right? I promise you that one of the reasons, whether it's a pitch recognition thing or what Zach Wheeler said about not being on plane consistently, that is part of the reason hitters are either elite or they're not. And obviously vision comes into play and some other characteristics that I'm not going to bore you with, but being on plane is a phenomenal start to being an awesome hitter. And when Zach Wheeler says that George Lombard is on plane, I love it. Now, listen, I don't think they're going to call him up this year, but let's just play this out. And I'm not in a rush to call him up yet because it is April, and I want to see what Volpe looks like. Like, if Volpe ever comes back and is actually like good, you know, now the lower third of the order changes a bit. Now Caballero's back to the super sub spot, blah, blah, blah. Now if McMahon still stinks, he will. Now you can play Rosario and Caballero with third base a little bit and have Volpe at short. There's too many variables for me to give you a definitive time where if or when I would call Lombard up. But we're going to push this forward. So it's middle of April, sitting basically 390. He's got 7 extra base hits. Looks phenomenal. I saw another stat yesterday. Oh, God, one of the guys that I coached with, my buddy Mike, before the game started, he actually said, did you see the stat with Lombard? And I said, I did, but I actually forgot the exact number. It was something like, of the 50 before last night, of the 53 pitches that he has seen out of the zone, Lombard only swung at 1. Something in that neighborhood, which obviously speaks to a great aptitude, right? Something like that.
It is. Let's see. It's something. It's along those lines.
Yeah. You don't even have to look it up, Jay.
Yeah.
You're good. It's something like that's close enough. I mean, listen, eventually he's going to go into a little tailspin here because I mean, unless he just really is like, you know, a young A-Rod or something like that. But I don't want to put that pressure on him. So eventually he's going to have a funk. I mean, if he's hitting 330 and we're in early July, well, then obviously, you know, you punt them up to AAA. I don't think they would go from double to triple to the bigs. You give him a look in at the highest level of the minors, and if he looks good there, and the Yankees are really scuffling, not that they can let desperation determine what they do, but you know, if he really does look different and he truly looks ready, and he's a plus fielder, which everybody thinks he's going to be, so it's not just a stick, whereas the leather is going to hurt you. Even if he goes 0 for 4, his speed and defensive prowess can actually help. Maybe there is a window for him to get called up this year. And to push it even more further, if he is, and I know there's a lot of contingencies here, I'm just responding to the text there. I mean, you're going to drop him in the bottom of the order. You're not going to put him in a 1 or the 2 hole, not yet. I mean, that's how I would react to that. We shall see. Nice putt. All right, I'm going to keep shouting this. Eat the 22 mil and get Tatis here. Let's go hard after Trout as well. I'll take my chances on his age. He's still better than Grisham. Yeah, I mean, you hear this a lot with NBA players, like, you know, guys who are in, you know, just situations where there's just nothing competitive and there's no structure. And then they get to a situation. It's funny. I was talking about the Jailblazers documentary on Netflix. Even though Rasheed Wallace was a terrific player with the Blazers, and he was still a little volatile and a little emotionally erratic when he went to the Pistons, think about how he conformed more, because you had Billups and you had Tayshaun and you had Ben Wallace and you had Rick Carlisle. You had like a stabilizing. Oh, Larry Brown won the championship, but Carlisle was before Larry. You had more insulation, more professionalism, just more expectations, and you comport yourself a little bit differently from an emotional perspective. And there's a deeper level of engagement that generally leads to better results if you've got that requisite talent, like Sheed and many others do. I mean, I said this over the winter. I would like to see the Yankees get Mike Trout. I would, and he looks energized. I know he and Trout, Judge and Trout, have a great relationship. Who knows? But they're not going to cut. You got to stop texting me the eat the money on Trent Grisham. They're not going to cut Trent Grisham. They're not going to do that. And they shouldn't. He had 34 home runs last year. And I'm not even a big fan, but he did prove to be incredibly viable a year ago. And now the problem is that was the 1 year out of 5 where he was actually a good player, but they're just not going to do it. I mean, they didn't even want to eat the money on Gallo when they brought Gallo here. And they don't want to eat the money on Hicks. They just don't eat money that often. So to think that they'll eat $22 million, or at this point, you probably got about 19 change left, whatever it is, something like that. If you do the math, not going to happen. A trade, you're going to go back to he's going to go back to the Padres. The Padres want him. I mean, Tatis, sure. I mean, that's the kind of, all around explosive electric weapon that the Yankees need. I mean, his arm in the outfield, his defensive metrics are sick. I mean, the guy's a stud, but Padres are off to a good start, and we'll see. I don't call them that, so I'll just say Stevie. If Stevie wants a turnaround, then he needs to hire a bleeping manager with balls. Hire Wally Backman. Oh, I mean, we're going to get back on the Wally train here. Sal Capello, 3032. I love Wally Backman. I mean, that ship sailed many years ago. If he should get fired, it's going to be Correa. Or maybe even Beltran. I can promise you it's not going to be Wally Backman. Wally, the video, you don't even know who Wally Backman is, Jay. You're probably too young, but there's a video when it's on YouTube, managing. It was one of the first YouTube videos I think I saw.
Really?
Now that I think about this. He was managing some minor league team, and he was a nutball. I loved it. And there was a lot of talk where, going back 5, 6, 8, 7, 8 years, where a lot of Met fans were clamoring for Wally because there would be this intensity, but that ship has sailed. And I've got great respect for the way Wally played the game, and I'm a Wally Backman fan, but that simply is not going to happen. Would you like me to hit you with Mel Kiper's final mock, the top 10?
Yeah, let's do it.
Got it.
Let's do it.
I got it. Let's do it. You can do it. You can do it. Mel Kiper's top 10. All right.
No.
We know Mendoza. He's got Mendoza going 1 to the Raiders. The Jets at number 2. So what I did was, before I continue, I picked out the top 10 picks here, and then I cherry picked some other interesting names or angles throughout round 1. So I've got 10. I've got about 14 or 15 things for you, okay? Number 1, Mendoza, Raiders. Number 2, Jets, David Bailey, Texas Tech. Number 3, Arvell Reese, which obviously before Schrager mocked Bailey to the Jets, Reese, by everybody, was really number 2 to the Jets. That seemingly has flipped. The odds reflect that, but we'll see. Bailey 2, Reese, Ohio State 3 to the Cards. The Titans, number 4, Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame. Number 5, Caleb Downs, the Giants, John Harbaugh's first pick. Now, I think the Giants could trade. I think the Giants could go online. I don't think the Giants will go receiver at 5. Some people do. Some people would like to see that. I would not do that myself. Not when somebody like Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles or Fano, from Utah, the old lineman. There's other things that I would do if I'm them. But anyway, Mel's got them taking Caleb Downs. And if you remember, when Harbaugh was hired, he was on Mike Francesa's podcast, and Mike brought up, because obviously they always have great safety play with the Ravens, Caleb Downs' name was brought up, and Harbaugh was very effusive. And it was not a smokescreen. I think Harbaugh was just like, yeah, I love this kid. He's phenomenal. But we'll see if they take him. That's the mock there with Kiper, number 5. Number 6, he did project a trade where Dallas, who has the number 12 and the number 20 pick, Dallas picks trades with Cleveland, and Dallas winds up picking Sonny Styles. That makes sense. I could see that happening. The Commanders, who I could also see making a trade here, Mel's got him staying put. Cornell Tate. And there were some other rumblings there. Jeremiah, some others say that the Jets might move up and make a trade and take Cornell Tate, wide receiver. Either way, Commanders 7, Tate, wide receiver. Ruben Bain, of course, from Miami, the edge with the short arms, but a hell of a player, going 8 to the Saints. The Chiefs, and I do believe they're going wide receiver. Jordan Tyson, Arizona State. The Bengals, Mansour Delane. He's a corner from LSU. I'm not even sure if he's the best corner. I like McCoy as well. That's close there. All right, so those are the top 10 for Mel. And then you can leave that up, Jay. I'll get to some of these football questions as well. Let me see. He's got the Bucks at 15, taking Kenyon Sadiq at tight end. That's somebody I would like the Jets to keep an eye on. We've talked about that on Jets Collective, talked about it here. By the way, Jets Collective tonight, episode 4. Like it, sub it, myself, Rich Samini, Jake Asman. The Bucks with Sadiq, the Jets at 16. Cooper, wide receiver from Indiana. All right. The Browns at 24. This goes into the other corner, obviously, McCoy from Tennessee. He's got him going there. And then Miami, this gets interesting. At number 30, he's got the Miami Dolphins and the Cardinals making a trade. And the Cardinals swap in. They take Ty Simpson at 30, and he would wind up in Arizona. So I wanted to give you a little sense of what Mr. Kuiper is thinking now, 8 days before the NFL draft. Hey, BT, would you take Omar Cooper at 16 for the Jets, or would you move up and get Cornell Tate? I like either. I really do. You know, I am still, I guess I'm going to have to do a final mock, right? Don't you think I'm going to have to do that at some point here, Jay?
Yeah, big time.
I'm going to have to
do a little vid.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that. Man, build out a nice graphic, make it look all splashy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper, I like Cooper a lot. Really competitive, really good. I like Tate. I like the Jets thinking receiver at 16. But I also think that Sadiq is so different. Like, Sadiq is so much better than any other tight end by a mile. When you talk about the wide receiver market, you know, is it Tate? It depends. It's personal preference. Yeah. And there's really 5 guys, and 3 or 4 are thought to be in the same vicinity. So obviously very subjective. I would rather, if you're going to go vertical threat, take the tight end disguised as a receiver who ran a 4.48 and is 6'3", 245 and just destroyed the combine like Sonny Styles. I'd rather take him at 16, who I love, than a receiver, one of the receivers who I like. But yep. I don't know what they're thinking. So that's part of the equation as well. I can't wait for the draft.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun.
I'm pumped, bro. I'm absolutely pumped.
He's got one more, if you can. Any thoughts on taking a flyer on Drew Allar for the draft?
Yeah, we've talked about this. I was doing an interview with the station in PA. My buddy Tom was doing a mock draft, and he actually asked me about Allar. You know, I think the easy thing now, I'd like to know what round are you talking? You if you know what you're talking about, you'd have to say from 5th round on. I'm not taking him in the 4th round. The 5th round is where I'd be like, okay, interesting. Let me see what they did in the previous X amount of picks there, barring trades, whatever. 2 in the 1st round, so it's not just 4 picks, as we know. Yeah, I'd be open to that. I would be. You know, developmental quarterbacks. See, the thing about that, like, they sound so appealing, and there is something to be said for it. But and this would kind of be the year to do it because you've got Geno, and he's not going to play. I don't think they're taking Ty Simpson. I've said that for a while. Yeah, I mean, he's got a big arm, man. You know, the problem with him is that they didn't really, it was more of a Franklin thing, the way he was coached. They didn't really let him, not improvise, but really, they just kind of limited what he did for the Nittany Lions there. So is there a next level? I'm not sure. I know he looked like an animal at his pro day, but then again, so did Zach Wilson, and so did so many other busts here. But it's also dependent upon who drafts you, how early do you play, what's the online look like, what's the scheme. I mean, just as a concept, ignoring all the other stuff that really matters in terms of player development, yeah, I'd be somewhat intrigued by Allar. But and it would have to be like if they trade back and it's like more. I'm getting a little weird. Does it really matter? Early 5th round, late? I guess it doesn't. But I think I'd feel really good if it's like back end of round 5. I'd feel good. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I like it, because I know by then they will have at least addressed either a tight end with Sadiq, one of the receivers, absolutely 2 frontline defenders, So, and their O-line's already awesome. So I know that. And they brought the run stuffers in from a free agency point of view in the trade with the Titans for Sweat, Jermaine Johnson. So they've done enough, and they've got enough running backs. So Jeremiah Love's not on the table. Yeah, I'd feel really good about that. If it's like early 6th round, I'd feel phenomenal. Like, to me, that's a perfect place for him. But I'm sure other teams are looking at his size. He's a big boy, and he's got a rocket, and he can throw it a country mile. And those guys, kind of like, back in the day, now everybody throws gas, but back in the day, it would be akin to some high school pitcher who throws absolute cheese. And, when I'm talking back in the day, like cheese 95, now everybody throws 95, if not more, but like 95, but he couldn't throw it straight, big, like Todd Van Poppel, like one of those dudes from back, if you remember that name. Even Brian Taylor was a lefty, but he got hurt, so a little bit different when he messed up his shoulder in the fight defending his cousin. Yeah, it's a profile. It's a skill set. It's a profile. It's a want list. It's a wish list that when you get to this stage of the draft, even if it's an unrefined receiver who played at a smaller school, who just has a ridiculous 40 time, but doesn't really have a lot of moves, can't get inside leverage, doesn't really know how to use his hands yet, off the line in terms of disengagement, or even, properly catching with his hands and not his body. Those are, I'll take flyers there, sure. Or like a converted basketball player that you think could be an intriguing tight end, something like that. We've seen that a lot in the NFL as well. Yeah. I mean, throw a dart at that point. I got no problem with it. I think Bailey's a smokescreen, and the Jets will draft Reese. Marciano 1320. All right, let me ask you a question. So the smokescreen would evidently just be to entice somebody to move up and trade with you because they want Bailey. Here's the thing, though. Like, if the Jets were at 3 and all this stuff around Bailey, this sudden shift in the odds and the energy and the belief that Bailey might be a little bit more in favor than Arvell Reese from Ohio State, who the hell are you fooling? You got the second pick. You know that the Raiders are picking Mendoza. Why are we playing this game? Pick who you want. Now, what would make sense, and I don't know how they have these players graded out, like, are they on the same line? I doubt it, because Bailey's thought to be, a little bit more polished and certainly more plug and play. Reese, higher upside, blah, 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 more explosive. But if they are, let's say the grade, I'll just use a scale of 1 to 100. Let's say collectively the Jets have Bailey at a 97. This could be the exact opposite. I'm just throwing numbers out to prove a point. Bailey at 97 and Reese at 96 or even 98 or even 95, like two degrees lower than Bailey. It's fairly negligible. But so this is why it would make sense in terms of a smokescreen. Hey, we love Bailey. We love Bailey. We're going to take Bailey's the man. We love Bailey. And then other teams have more separation between Bailey and Reese, meaning they don't like Reese as much as Bailey. It takes one team to love one guy, bang, trade. And we know that Muji is really, really good with that. So, I'm not going to say that it's not a smokescreen. I'm also going to tell you, and be very honest, candidly, I'm not really sure what they're thinking. I've talked to Rich Samini about this a lot on the show, Jets Collective, tonight, 7 o'clock, episode 4. He's got inside intel. One of the things he said on last week's show is he doesn't think Sadiq is going to be around by the time Jets go to 16 or go with 16. He thinks that the neighborhood for Sadiq, based on what he's heard, is more like 12, 13, maybe 14. That the belief within the NFL circle is that they're not getting past that point. So if the Jets love him, they're going to have to move up. And if they don't love him, and there's a couple of receivers that they like, but there's no real differentiation, well, now there's the window to move from 16 backwards and still get a receiver that is equally graded. This applies to every team. And now the stuff last night with Cornell Tate. I mean, imagine if the Jets swing a trade and they take, whether it's Bailey or Reese at 2, and they take Tate at 9 if they make that trade there, or 7 with the Commanders, and they both hit. I mean, yes, that's how you build a team that eventually is going to be really, really good for a really long time, provided you eventually get the quarterback. Which, until they get, I'm convinced they never will get, but it's still fun to think about it. Bailey feels like Hugh Douglas. No, that's interesting. It's interesting. And the one thing about Bailey, I mean, Hugh Douglas came from, I'm betting at Texas Tech is a little bit off the radar as well, even though Mahomes played there. It's not like Ohio State or some of these Oregon, Michigan. Yeah, I mean, Hugh Douglas was so long ago. Parcells said, nah, it's just not for me. And he played very well early. I liked Hugh. Actually, I liked Hugh Douglas a lot My buddy who I used to go to the games with had a Hugh Douglas jersey. I remember that. Hugh was good. I don't know. That's such a long time ago. And I didn't see Hugh Douglas play a lot before the Jets drafted him. And I haven't seen Bailey play a ton outside of footage. I'm barely staying in on a Saturday to watch the Buckeyes play in September. I'm sure shit not sticking around to watch Texas Tech play on a Saturday. Not when there's games to coach or golf to play or something else to do. I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm going to watch what I have to watch, and I'm going to be as prepared as anybody. But the days of chaining myself to a couch, it's over. I'm going to live my life here, and I will be ready to talk about what I need to talk about. And I like Bailey, but I don't love him. And I like Reese, but I don't love him. I don't. I love Sadiq. I want him. I love Styles, and I've loved Caleb Downs was somebody that I was talking about for a long time. All right. Now, the Sonny Styles momentum, obviously, you see him play teammates. You see him play a lot. You can't not notice him because he's jumping off the TV all the time. That's a team I'm going to stick around and watch a little bit more. The Buckeyes, right? Because they got 5 pros there. But the Sonny Styles hype really just went through the roof after the combine. That's where it hit a new level. And I'm intrigued by that. But I'm also very intrigued by his play. It's not just, dude, this worked out. He was thought to be a second-round pick. He's a workout freak like Mamulu. This is way before your time, from Boston College. The Eagles drafted him. Can you check out? I just got to button this up. Yeah. I'm gonna be so off on the year. Jeez. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Mamola? I'm saying it wrong.
Mamola.
Played at Boston College, linebacker, little edge, jump around, maybe 98. Maybe
Mike Mamula.
What year was it, though? Yeah. I'm going to be off on the year.
1995 was when he got drafted.
Jeez, even before I was thinking, okay, yeah. And he was a guy, and if you look at it, no disrespect, but he just wasn't it. And he was a guy who just banged it at the combine. So I'm less about combine hype these days, and I'm much more about what the film tells me. Even though I'm not a Kuiper, I don't pretend to be, one of these guys who just scours film day and night. But at this point, I'd like to think I could differentiate between somebody who can really play and who can't. The offensive lineman, that's tough for me, I admit. But this other stuff, I put money on it. Caleb Downs going to be a star. Caleb Downs, if he stays healthy. I'm not going to say the same about Styles, although I'm more yes than no. But I will say with no uncertainty if he's healthy, that dude's going to be in 7 or 8 Pro Bowls and a 3 or 4 time All-Pro. Caleb Downs. I believe that. I think Jeremiah Love is going to be an out-of-this-world superstar. I think Sadiq, like Bowers. Now, Bowers came out, had more receptions in college, but Bowers coming out, you just knew he was going to be phenomenal. You knew it, and he is. It's just certain guys that feel right, and few of those guys feel right to me. What else did I want to get to today? What time we got? 11:25.
Sure.
Let me pop this guy up here, see what he's all about here. Joe somebody at 407. BT, do you think that baseball GMs need to take a step back from analytics and sign players based on knowledge of the game and feel? Too much focus on the data doesn't seem to do much, a.k.a. Mets. Well, listen, I think you've got to have the right mixture. There's just certain things, like if you can't do, you've got to be able to do certain things at a certain threshold, right? Like if you're a pitcher and, you throw 89 miles an hour, you just got no chance, especially now with ABS. At least, Maddox could really manipulate that outer half. He was throwing more 92, and it was also a very different era. But you just certain benchmarks, you have to be there. Like if you are, that's one of the things that worries me about Ruben Bain. Not that he can't defy this, but the last time a defensive end was picked that high and had a really good career was 2000. Like you're talking about 25 draft years of evidence where, long arms, what's it mean? He's not reaching into his pocket to get the check. I understand that. But what he is doing is trying to get away from some beast of a left tackle who is probably 6'5", 320, and could run like a heavy tight end. So you got to have those longer arms and you got to have that secondary move. You just have to. And it seems like Bain in the playoffs, and during the regular season as well, just soared to the top 3 or 4 spots, right? And then he dropped a little bit with the arm stuff, and it seems like he's ascending again. So he's going to go top 10, I think. I think he might go top 8. I think the Saints could take him at 8 behind the Commanders. But yeah, I mean, if you're a catcher and your pop time simply is not, it's a mathematical. See, a lot of this we might not like the math, but it is a mathematical equation. I'll give you an example, Jay. When you see a first base coach, right?
Yep.
Looking at a stopwatch. You ever see that guy? He's got the little
Yeah.
spring hanging out of his back pocket, and he's got a stopwatch. He's got a stopwatch for a reason. It is literally a mathematical equation. How long does it, and this is all pre-scouted out, and he's got this in his notes, right? How long from when the pitcher, the man on base, from his set position, does it take? Does he sidestep? Does he go full? How long does it take for him to actually deliver the ball? And then you have that mathematical aspect, which is a real tangible number. And now you incorporate that with the pop time, the catcher receiving the ball, releasing the ball, how quickly it gets down to second base.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last aspect of it, which is as important as the other two ingredients, how fast is the runner? And this is all timed out during spring training, going from first to second with a 7-foot lead, an 8-foot lead, whatever it might be. And you do the math. So to me, we might not like the numbers, but you have to incorporate them. I think the problem with numbers is when you are oblivious to some other stuff that is not quantifiable, whether it's energy or grit or just something else that he might omit, where maybe he's a tenth or 0.2 of a second behind the stopwatch, or 2 miles per hour less on the gun, or exit velo, like a little tick down. I'll give you a good example. So I remember when we were talking about Bellinger. I remember saying I thought Bellinger would be good for the Mets before he went to the Cubs, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember a lot of Mets, this is on the fan. I remember a lot of Met fans saying, he's got an average exit velo is weak. And it was in the not lower, but it was not red on Baseball Savant. It wasn't like 80 or 90 percentile. I forget the exact number, but maybe it was like in the 60s. It was kind of on the lower side for a guy who was looking for big money, put it that way. And everyone's like, yeah, he doesn't hit the ball that hard. Yeah, but do you understand why he doesn't hit the ball that hard? I'm going to explain it to you. Because when you have 2 strikes, all right, and he just kind of looked to flick the ball just to keep it at bat going, whether it's fouling the ball off or just kind of for a lefty blooping the ball left field or hitting it where it's pitched.
Yeah.
And you're not swinging from the heels every single time. You're not going to get those 115 lasers off the bat with frequency. I mean, a lot of guys don't get that frequently. That's more like Stanton and Ben Rice and Judge territory, and a few others that consistently hit the ball hard, impacted. But I actually thought that the context there was, to me, a further illumination why I thought he would be perfect for the Mets, and then why I'm happy that he's on the Yankees. Because if you look deeper, not just exit velo weak, I don't want him. If you go a layer below it, and it's easy to do, guess who had the highest 2-strike batting average in baseball that year that people were criticizing the exit velo? The aforementioned Bellinger. So when you're not striking out that much and you're putting balls in play and you're putting stress on the defense, and by the way, you're a plus runner. Not that he's Ricky, but he's scoring from first on a double. If there's a soft ground ball up the middle, he's beating it out. If the second baseman has to dive and get up to his feet, there's a good chance he's going to beat that out because he could run. So he's making contact. But yes, by making contact, he's making softer contact, which lowers the number that everybody looks at. But below that, what I see is a baseball player, a guy that I want up there against some dude in the 9th inning or the 8th inning in the American League Championship Series, or in Toronto or Boston in September, late September for division, or the World Series, and you're facing Diaz, and you're facing Miller. Some dude's throwing 102, 103. Chapman back in the day when he hit 105. Hey, he might not hit one in the seats. He might not hit one 113 miles an hour, but he might bloop one, keep the inning going, or work out a walk because he fouled 3 or 4 pitches off. And now guess what? Residually, that pitcher gets further taxed. And that 1 extra inch bite that doesn't move away from Aaron Judge, that ball might be in the seats because Bellinger did something that nobody really appreciated. So the numbers are what they are. That's just a little context how I view it. But yeah, I mean, you've got to incorporate them. But if you're a slave to the numbers, you're just a geek, and I got no time for geeks.
You don't know the game.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know it on the level that I want you to know it. That's for damn sure. How many of these? Yeah, go ahead. What do you got?
Oh, no. I was going to say, I don't know if this is breaking. I don't know if this is necessarily breaking news.
You want to hit the siren? How about this? Hold on. Hit the siren.
All right, let me make sure I hit the right sound.
Oh. What's going on, buddy? We're breaking news.
Breaking news. Kevin McGonigal from the Tigers signed an 8-year, $150 million contract extension
Stud.
through 2034.
Stud.
So
You know, we can only be so lucky to see like that happen with Lombard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd love to see that because you're buying. I mean, that's happened more and more. It really, the then Indians were the first team to really do it, buying out 3 or 4 years of arbitration, going back to the 90s Indians with like Baerga and like Sandy Alomar and like those cats, right? And it's a very wise financial move for both teams. What would you say, 180?
150.
For how many? 8 years?
8 years.
Okay. So now I don't know his family's financial background, but let's just say it's average. He's not destitute and they're not incredibly affluent. You get $150 million, even if you invest it like a schmuck, you're golden. I mean,
yeah, your bloodline's pretty straight.
I mean, if you can't get 7 or 8% on that, you're a complete dope. But even if you messed up and you got like 2%,
you're all right.
Multiple generations are set because he's so young. All right. So he's set. It's smart on the part of the Tigers because is he 19? How old is he again?
Let's see.
19 or I think he's 19.
He is.
Could be wrong on that. How old is he?
No, dude. 21.
Yeah. Oh, he is 21. Okay, my bad.
Pretty young dude.
You know, I thought he may have been a little bit younger. All right, so he's 21. He has secured his future. And the Tigers, who, you know, let's face it, Scooble's going to be gone. They don't really have the appetite, nor do they necessarily have the resources like the Dodgers and the Mets and, you know, the Yankees if they want to, lesser extent, because Hal doesn't have that kind of money, or the Phillies. It's a very shrewd move because you're fortifying your future financial solvency. And if now it's a bet. God forbid if he got hurt, that's a problem. But then who the hell is texting me here? But there's insurance for that, right? Like David Wright got insurance with his back for the Mets. So all that stuff works itself out. I don't know to what extent. I don't know if it's penny for penny, but it's a percentage. So you don't get bent over the way you think you might financially. So you fortify that. If he is what I believe everybody thinks that this young man's going to be, I mean, geez, by the time he's arbitration eligible and, you know, ARB 1, ARB 2, and then eventually a free agent, if he ever got to that point, well, geez, now, I mean, who knows where the game is. Now, there might be a complete recalibration with this work stoppage, but if there's not, I mean, if Soto got $800 million, I mean, what is he going to get? Is he going to get, you know, $1.3 billion? Who the hell knows where we're going? I don't know. So I get it. I like it. It's proactive. Good for him. Good for the Tigers.
There we go.
Should have done that with Scooble.
Yeah.
Although Boris wouldn't let him. I don't think this can't be a Boris client. No way.
No.
Acuna did it. Jay, Acuna did it years ago.
Okay.
When he got a $100 million contract. Remember, then he ripped up his knee. But he also won an MVP with 70-something steals and the 40 bombs, whatever. I like it a lot more than not. And I really like it for mid-major teams, mid-market teams. The Aces did it as well. I don't think it was quite that amount of money, but they did something very similar. It's smart. It's being proactive. All right, now, so you know, Jay, how much fun I had following the Johnnies this year, right?
Oh, of course. Oh, no. I know what you're about to get to.
Yeah, well, what am I going to get to?
It's painful. Darling.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pain. My mom literally sent me like an Instagram post of it.
She did?
Like, oh, yeah, of course. And I was like,
yeah, I get it. I get it. Listen, you know, Rick's got to do what Rick's got to do, and St. John's is going to do what they got to do. That's business, and I applaud them for that. St. John's got a player yesterday by the name of Quinn Ellis.
Yep.
He's 23. Now, hey, if this is the rule, then you got to do what you got to do.
Wait,
I hate that this is the rule.
He's 23. I mean, that's crazy.
I hate that this is the rule, but until it's no longer the rule, these are the rules. You may as well play with them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Whoa.
Yeah, the Johnnies have the bank in Mike Rapoli. They got the appetite with their president, Father Shanley, and their AD, my buddy Eddie Cole, and of course Rick, who's not going to be coaching for 10 more years. Like, he wants to win. So from a St. John's point of view, awesome. They get this kid Quinn Ellis, who is J-Rod says 23, but not only is he 23, he was playing in one of the Euro leagues.
Oh,
so
he's
played professionally for 7 years. So he's 6. Yeah. He's 6'5". I never heard of the kid until yesterday. I'm not gonna lie to you. And then I'm looking at this film. I'm like, oh my god! And it is impressive. Now, all highlights look good.
Yeah,
because I remember at this point last year, whether it was Sannon or even Ian Jackson, I'm like, oh, And then Sannon didn't have a really good year at all, and Ian Jackson, who I'm happy is staying, he had some confounding moments as well, trying to learn how to play point guard. But my point is, you can slap together a highlight video of me in college. Like, got to draft this guy. Meanwhile, every stuff like this. No, not interested in this loser. We're good. We're good. So I don't want to overreact to that. But when you play against grown men, as he has, I mean, you think an opposing point guard for Butler or Seton Hall or Xavier is going to stop you?
No.
He is going to destroy the Big East, not to mention all the other players St. John's is involved in. So they beat out Duke, they beat out Kentucky, they beat out Louisville, they beat out BYU. As we know, BYU's NIL fund is like $15 million going back to last year, and they're adding to it. So they had some big boys at the table. I applaud St. John's for doing this, no question. But this is inherently what I hate about the direction of college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
This is a young man who they actually created an award after, called the Big Bells Award. It was after one of the games, and you got to love Petito, big coach at a Catholic university. He's like, yeah, I would call him Big Bells because he's got balls as big as church bells. And I think it's hysterical. It's just so funny that he says it as the head coach at St. John's. And then from that comment after one of the games, it became the Big Bells Award, and I remember Rick actually bringing it to the locker room when I recorded one of the TV shows with him this year, the Red Storm Report. I'm like, I got to see this thing. So we had it behind us next to the Big East, trophies from the previous year, big regular season and tournament champ, like the trophy, whatever. So it was up there. I'm like, this thing's awesome. So, and you see like teams do this, like the Yankees do a belt and the Knicks do like the Timberland boots. And I like it. It's kind of cool. Like the Blue Jays have the jacket when they hit a home run. It's just, it's youthful exuberance, even though it's grown men and it's big business. I love it. And in college, they had the Big Bells Award based on, they didn't want to call it the Big Balls. They kind of, change. So the Big Bells Award, right? So anytime somebody, and it wasn't just for the guy who had the most points, a guy who exuded toughness and character, you come in, it's this guy, and then they go nuts. They pour water on each other. And that young man who spawned the birth of the Big Bells Award, who hit a shot that in my lifetime is the second biggest shot in the history of St. John's. And the first one was back in 1980. Now, I know that they went further in previous years, but in 1986, this guy by the name of Ron Rowan, you don't know who he is.
Yeah.
I loved him. I used to pretend I was Ron Rowan. White guy, shooter. He looked good. I loved Ron Rowan. This is after Mullen left, right? And he sticks a jump shot from the baseline, beats Syracuse, is the 86 Big East championship game. That's the game, if you may have seen this, maybe not, but some of you have, I'm sure, where Walter Berry, who was the man, the truth, love Walter, never ran back on defense. He would just want to play offense. He finally got back on D because Rowan sticks the baseline jumper to take a lead. I think it was a 1-point lead at that point. Then Pearl, Syracuse inbounds it quick. Berry finally runs back and basically like pins and swats Pearl Washington at the buzzer, right? So the Ron Rowan jump shot was the biggest shot, even though they had teams that went further. The Dylan Darling shot at the buzzer to beat Kansas. It's good that they beat Northern Iowa. Okay, great. Just like it was good that they beat Omaha the year before they lost to Calipari's Arkansas team. To beat a team like Kansas, like the name, you know what I'm saying? Kansas. To go to the Sweet 16 and to do it in the manner in which he did it, at the horn, a lefty shooter, finishing with his right hand from the right side, under duress. The fact that he's not going to be here is a crusher. I know St. John's fans feel this one because part of the beauty, think about how much fun it's been watching. And St. John's is not unique in this regard, although their player development has been outstanding because that's what Rick does. But Zuby came from Kansas, was a bit player, played 5 minutes a game. And then you look up, he just won the Kareem out just like a couple of days ago, won the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award for the nation's greatest, best center. Big East Player of the Year, Big East Defensive Player of the Year, Scholar Athlete of the Year in the conference, like all these accolades. And to see that growth from, wow, as a sophomore, this dude's bouncy and he's got a good motor and he's energetic and he can rebound. And then all of a sudden to last year as a junior with R.J. Lewis and those guys, Dennis Jenkins, like, man, he could shoot a little bit. Oh, okay. Oh, first team all Big East. Okay. To what he became this year, that's the ultimate joy. I mean, outside of winning, Like, that's the real good stuff of being a college fan, and it's gone, And I don't begrudge St. John's for doing it, and I don't begrudge Dylan Darling for saying, I'm out. I want to play. I got 1 year left in college. I want to. But, man, the imagery, and if you remember the celebration, Mink and I were literally, me and Mink were just 10 feet away, from that massive St. John's humanity, like literally going into the tunnel. It was crazy. And, it stinks. I'm happy I had a chance to say goodbye to him. And I told you, I got it, when they lost to Duke, they were up by 10, 15 minutes to go. I really thought they were going to win. And, I had a good connection to Zuby, and they're all good young men. And I've gotten to know, Zuby's been doing this 3 years, and it's been good to my family. Gave my daughter his towel after a game. Like, awesome. Zuby's just, he's the essence of what a young man should be. And Dylan Darling, this is my first year with him. He was only here 1 year, but I interviewed him a bunch and had a pretty good rapport with him. And I remember when they lost to Duke, I think I told you this on the air, where, all the, like, Serby and, Vaccaro and Nikki from SNY and everybody basically. Bruce Beck was there when everybody left, cleared out the locker room. I went over to him, and he was just in the corner by himself, and he was really upset. And I didn't think that I would get upset, but I said, my son loves watching you play, man. And as I was saying, as the words were coming out, I was actually getting choked up to the point where I had slightly visible tears in my eyes because I saw tears in his eyes. Mm-hmm. And, those are the things that I will remember. Those are the things that I will take. But you want to see those players stick around. And, if you can get 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 more, you don't think that somebody from another conference is going to probably overvalue him. He's not a star. He had some bouts where he couldn't shoot at all. But, like, what he meant to the program and what he meant to the fan base, man. And I know this kid's going to be a beast, Quinn Ellis, but he's going to be missed. So that's the shitty part.
Quick question. Is Quinn Ellis, is he originally a European player?
He is from England. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So he's been playing professional ball forever.
It's a grown man.
Dude. Wait, listen, obviously it's tough. Like, it's a tough situation, but
you think
Johnny's basketball could be looking fire.
Hey, I'm not saying that, when the season starts, I'm not going to get over Dylan Darling. I'm you have to, but the fact that especially that Zuby, if you tell me who are the captains, like Zuby,
Zuby is rough.
Zuby was the captain, literally, and their best player, and Darling was their, like their Starks, like their that John Starks, volatile in a good way, energetic, demonstrative leader. And a pseudo captain. And I remember Rick saying after one of the games this year, it was after Providence when they got into that scrap with Bryce Hopkins. I forget which game it was, but he was saying how it wouldn't surprise him if Dylan was a captain next year. So it is what it is. I can't reinvent the wheel. I could just push back on what I don't like about it. But St. John's is doing what St. John's has to do for St. John's and their fans. It is a business. It's never been more apparent, but it is a broken system. And we all know that. And if other teams are doing it and you don't, and no disrespect, I've got great respect for Shaheen Holloway and those dudes at Seton Hall, always have, right? But if you don't do what St. John's is doing, and if you don't do what UConn does and what all these other schools are doing, you're going to be Seton Hall, where be around the 500 team, you're going to play scrappy, you're going to play tough because that's what Shaheen demands. But how long is it before somebody says to Shaheen, yo, come coach us? Here's $3 more million. We know that you're getting fed up with the lack of NIL money for the Pirates or their inability or unwillingness or both to pay you what we believe is commensurate with your talents as a coach. I think Shah's a great coach. He's awesome. How much longer is he going to stay there? I don't have the answer to that. I can promise you, like, if this was the old days and it was just scholarship and maybe some shit under the table, like the old way of cheating, I would think, unless Shaheen Holloway wanted to mess around and try the pro game at some point, I would think that Holloway would be the head coach at Seton Hall for 20 years.
Yeah.
You'd have that kind of life. You'd have that kind of profile. And I would promise you that he would get some of those, studs from St. Benedict's and, St. Anthony's is no longer open, but some of those great New Jersey high schools and AAU players, and they'd make a Sweet 16 run and they'd have a year. Maybe they mess around, get to the Elite Eight, but instead they're just, and again, no disrespect, they're just a fledgling at this point, off the radar, fairly a non-entity in the upper structure of the conference. Yeah. And it's sad, but it is what it is, St. John's was like that forever until they decided to
big
spend some
time.
money. Find the money, if you can. What else, Jay? What else we got here, brother?
We got, what do you think about Mike Malone taking the UNC job?
Odd hire. I said this when it came
I
up.
remember that.
Yeah, strikes me as strange. Now, Mike Malone very well might be disenchanted with the NBA game. Maintenance days and everybody making basically $50 million at this point, and everything's a 3-point shootout. There's just a lot. The regular season is insignificant for the most part. But you tell me he's not going to grow disenchanted with the college game? I mean, every year you got to re-recruit a roster. Now UNC's got the bank to support him. Whatever he wants, he's going to get. And there's going to be players. This guy's a champion. He coached Jamal Murray. He coached Jokic. This man's an NBA champion. Yeah. I want my son, or I want to go play for him. He's going to help me get to the next step, because the money's going to be equal or more, and you get a former NBA coach. I just an odd hire, and their process was odd. I think even more so. It looked like Billy Donovan was going to take the job.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't want to wait. I don't know what they're doing.
I guess it'd make a little more sense than Mike Malone, Billy Donovan, but still, I guess. So they were really looking for a coach with NBA experience.
Well, remember, Billy was, many years, multiple champions in Florida. You know that.
With Horford and Joakim Noah and stuff.
Yeah. I was at those Final Fours. Too.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Would you consider? I don't know anything about this era of college basketball. Would you say those rosters were some of the better college basketball teams of all time? Because I look at that Florida Gators team and I'm like, this was disgusting.
Yeah, and
it was because there's a third guy. It was Corey Brewer, Horford, and Joakim Noah.
Yeah, and they had a white shooter who didn't make the NBA, but a sniper who had some big moments in the Final Four. I'm forgetting his name. It's a long time ago. Noah was a terrific pro for the Bulls. He was great college player. Billy was awesome.
Lee Humphrey.
There you go. Good call, Lee Humphrey. Thank you very much. Shout out to Lee. No,
not one of the best. Okay.
No. It's not. It's certainly representative of your age, which I get.
Sure.
I get. I'm not clowning you at all. I don't do that, but I don't do that with something like this. I'm going to clown you, but not not for opinion. No. It's there were just too many other teams that I like. Let me ask you this: do you think it was really better than Villanova's championship team?
Nah.
Jalen Brunson.
Nah, I mean, if you
Josh
look
Hart, Bridges.
No, not really.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's how the players panned out. No.
That's just one example, and it's fairly recent. I mean, geez, you got to remember, I also watched Syracuse with Dwayne Washington, the Pearl Washington, and Derek Coleman.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And Ronnie Cycli, who was actually a really good NBA
player. I should know this.
Like a slightly after it, a little bit after it. I think Cycli was more with Sherm Douglas, I think. But obviously, how about St. John's with Chris Mullen and Walter Berry and Mark Jackson and Bill Wennington, all first-round picks. And this is just the Big East. How about Carolina with Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson? How about Vince Carter with Michael Jordan, and James Worthy?
Oh, my
One of the best small forwards of all time.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. All right.
I love when you throw stuff out.
One of the better teams of the best college basketball team of the year 2007.
No, but even more than that. I'm not trying to shoot
of the 2000s, it is one of the better college basketball teams. But comparatively, there are some teams with straight up star-studded rosters where you got multiple and Joakim Noah and Horford are two all-star I mean, they both obviously made multiple all-star level teams, but it's a little different than a Brunson kind of player who came out of a team along with Bridges and Hart, and Bridges obviously never an all-star, but still came out with 20 point per game season.
No, I'm with you. But I like that. Good job. Any other chat stuff before we bounce?
Oh my gosh. All right. This guy's giving it all, Marciano's giving it all to us today. But any chance we get Sydney Sweeney on the show as a follow-up to when she was on BT and Sal?
Let's go.
I'm all ears. We need that.
And eyes. And that's on my producer. Can you do it?
Oh man, I'll try.
I'm trying to think how we got her on the fan. I think that was Hoff. Hoff set that up. See what you can do. I mean, she's pretty social media friendly.
Definitely. I don't know if she's social media friendly to a dude with 800 followers on Instagram, but
she's probably like, who is this cornball trying to slide in my DMs? Look at this sleazy dude.
But we'll
yeah,
see.
that's
No,
true.
we'll
That's
see.
true.
I'll try to. I'll definitely hit her up, but I'm sure I'll be one of millions.
You think? You think any traction with Jake the Snake or Hacksaw or any of this stuff going
It's
on?
getting rough
Fournette?
trying to contact with them because both of them have their preferences on all their social medias set to they have to follow you in order to message them.
Got it.
So I think I was able to get an Instagram DM over, but even that sends us a message request and not in the thing.
Okay.
So I'll send a follow-up email and keep it going, but
well, I'm going to give you. I appreciate that.
Pivot. We may need to pivot.
There's not many more guys I want to talk to that are still alive from back in the day. Try, you know what? Here, try Hacksaw Jim Duggan on Facebook. He just posted something the other day.
All right.
He's been posting some pretty good stuff. So I don't know. Maybe he's got to follow you to accept the message. I'm not sure. I think it's a little different on Facebook because I get messages from people I don't follow. So maybe give it a shot. Thoughts on?
I didn't see this either. I don't know if you did.
Thoughts on Prime? What?
So basically, in the Hornets game, I believe last night, the broadcast literally just cut out.
I didn't see that.
A minute or two.
I just saw the winning bucket and the winning block shot on highlights. Are you serious?
Yeah, no. I mean, which is just unacceptable.
Oh, you think?
And it also just, I feel like, plays into, man, like they just got to stop with these channels, dude. They just got to stop with the Prime. Put games on local television. Put at least one playoff game on local television.
That's a bad look. Well, Breen was talking about that before he and Clyde signed off for the year. He's absolutely right. Listen, I get it, man. You get to the conference finals, all right, but and that's got to be broadcast, and it's all about the money, so it's not going to change. This is wishful thinking, but somebody, and not just because Mike Breen is the voice of the Knicks forever, and Clyde as well. This applies for all the teams, right? Like. Throw him a bone, give him one game. Give him kind of mix and match a little bit. Yeah.
It also be so good for the channel, like the stations, the channels. I mean, I get it's greed for like the bigger network corporations, but like, dude, think about not the juice, but like a bump in numbers for a smaller TV network that they get from a playoff game.
But they don't care about that. Like the NBA doesn't care about that. I don't know that. I don't know if they get any cut from that, but I know that they get. You think about that. Like I don't know. I'm going to plead ignorance on this. But I can promise you, even if they do, which I don't know that they do, it is a minuscule fraction of what they get from Prime and Netflix, opening day, Yankees. It is what it is. So I guess you can't fight City Hall. We can complain about it, but it's not going to change. But that's embarrassing. If you're going to take over games, playoff games, don't pull the plug on the broadcast. Try to actually have the game-winning bucket so people who are watching the game can actually see what transpired. That's probably a good thing to do if you're going to be this immersed in the in the game. It's basic stuff. All right, man. All right, tonight, Jets Collective at 7. We've got the Jets Collective at 7, episode number 4. Can't wait for that. All draft stuff. So if you're a Jets guy, and by the way, not just Jets, because other teams are now factoring in potential trades here, whether it's the Commanders, there's maybe the Jets find a swap move into the top 10, but it is obviously primarily Jet stuff here. So myself and Rich and Jake, that is week number 4, episode number 4 tonight at 7, and that is about it. Make sure you jump on there, give it a sub. We just launched and we just got 3,000 subs. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. So show the love there. Obviously, whoa, why is the banner back on? I thought we got rid of it. What's going on?
No banner.
What happened there, Jay?
Creature of habit.
Ooh.
My bad.
Before we go, just let me see. Get me up on the full screen if you can.
All right.
I do want to do one thing. I want to get a little, now obviously if I mess around with this, well then now you start getting into, now it's getting a little bit.
It's a little too color split.
Yeah, we got a little bit of everything. We got the logo, we got the world map, we got some stuff behind me. But do you guys, and I want to see some chats real quick, just say yes or no. Whether it's this or some variation, obviously we took care of the light that was pulsating off the Unleash logo, thank God. So we were able to rectify that. Feel good about that. You guys kind of like this look or just the plain black behind me, which we've basically done since we moved from upstairs, or we moved it upstairs from my basement the first show. Let me know. Let me know about that. I just want to get a couple now. Jay, you said you kind of liked the way it looked, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely liked how it was looking, like this.
Okay, first one says this look. Yeah, I just think it's a little more friendly.
Yes.
This one, yeah, this look. All right, good. You guys are digging it. I love it. Hey, I told you it's going to be a work in progress. Now, Jay, one more thing before we go.
Only thing, I guess I just kind of cut you off on the screen when we do the split. So maybe like moving to the right. But
I mean, we'll figure that part out.
Yeah,
Rome wasn't built in a day, bro. One other thing, can you get me on the phone? One other thing here. Well, maybe two other things. Number one, we have a meeting with the digital store for merch. I thought that would be a little bit quicker, but it's a little more detailed than we thought. So BT Unleashed merch, because we had one place, but they don't make tumblers. And one place, we didn't like the quality of the t-shirts. Got to be soft and pliable. You can't be getting those like stiff t-shirts that you get, for free when they shoot them in the crowd at a basketball. You know the kind of shirt that shrinks immediately. That's like stiff as a board. So we've got to get the right material, got to do it right. And hopefully the place that we're meeting with today will be the right place. So once that's the case, we've already got the concept, we've already got the color scheme, and then it's the 5 or 6 target items, the beanies, the trucker hats, the hoodies, the golf shirts, the mugs, the coffee mugs for sure, the tumblers, what else? And then eventually, if that goes well, we could always maybe some golf shirts, some shot glasses, whatever. That's downstream, but that is a lot closer than it has been for the last month or so. That's one update. Number 2, we've said it a few times, Jay. We have got to get phone calls on the show.
Yep.
This is something that you and I will talk about off air. We had a big sales meeting yesterday. Something else that we're not going to tell you now, but something else that's going to come to fruition next week for some draft content that you guys will love. Obviously, Sullivan and Papane was the first in tow. Premio, the second sponsor in tow. We've got a third element coming on Monday, so the business is good. The channel is growing. It will grow more with the likes and the subs and the shares and the comments and all those things that the algorithm picks up and just redistributes throughout the world. But on a very cursory level, I want you to talk to the audience and give them, without getting detailed and lifting up the hood and confusing everybody, what is a timeline and what is the viability on a call line?
Well, I mean, I think the viability could be immediate. Now,
Okay.
This is my question to you, and this could be discussed more off the air. I'd like, maybe even get the fam's input right now. You could do it through a phone line, or we could do it through this. You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Like, we could do it as to where we send out 2 links, where it's like you send out a first link, I get them in a separate studio, I talk to them, they send, and I go, what's your question? I give them the approval. I make sure that everything with the camera, everything on screen's okay. And then I send them the link to this studio. They join. And what we can do is we can either do it kind of how we have it right now, where I'm speaking, but it's only you on the screen.
Okay.
Or, hey, if it's not looking too rough, we could do the split cam.
I like that. So basically, and again, it's almost like when you and I have a guest, right? We have the guest backstage on the platform that we use. It would be a separate link. They would reach out to you, and then I would hear their voice. You would patch them through. Would you put up on the screen Joe in New Jersey, Mike in Long Island?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
We could talk more about this later today.
We will.
I've got it written out kind of like how I think we should do it.
I think it's time. I think that we've grown to a place where the training wheels are off. We've got sponsorships, digital store coming. We've rolled out some A+ guests here. Obviously viable, growing by the day. I think it's time. It's something I want because I miss talking to people. That's the one thing that I do. People say, hey, do you miss the fan? I mean, there's elements that I certainly miss about the fan for sure. But I think the thing that I miss the most is being able to interact in a more conventional way. I think that that's something that would add like the show's got juice because I'm always going to bring energy. You know that. But I think that's a different juice, a combative juice, just a different level of intrigue and unpredictability. I think, and again, you and I will talk more downstream, but this is something we're pursuing. We're going to get on top of this, and we're going to, I don't know when this will be introduced, but it will be soon. Deal?
Yeah, deal. I mean, deal. Listen, ASAP. I'm writing the steps out as we speak.
He's awesome. If you guys knew how hard this guy's working behind the scenes, man, you'd be, because I've gotten a lot I give J-Rod a little love here. I've gotten a lot of people, you're taking the kid along well, and you're treating him right and all that stuff. That's good. I'm happy that people could see that, and I show him respect, and he's learning stuff. But the initiative's got to be there, and it is. Like, he's all in. I mean, he is all in on the structure of the show. He was on the business call with one of our newer sponsors. Again, we're going to trot that out Monday. He asked a couple of very pertinent questions. So, the love that J-Rod gets, and most of the questions are obviously for me and stuff, but he's a big part of this, and he's doing a great job, and I'm proud of him, and reinforces again that I made the right hire when I said J-Rod's going to be my producer. I just want to say that.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, listen, I could go on and on for years about how awesome these past 4 months have been.
You don't have to. That's not what that's about, man. I know you don't have to, but that's not what I'm fishing for. That's about you. This you can leave it at that. I told you. I know that your parents have done a great job with you, because I just think that the work ethic and the engagement. You hear a lot of knocks on the younger generation. They don't want to work hard. They're lazy. Not my guy. No, yeah, not my guy, J-Rod. Not at all.
I don't know.
French guy.
Other people are like, because other people say stuff like that, like my age, like, oh, I don't want to work. Oh, I actively want more work. I want more work than what I'm doing right now. I want it. I relish in it. So
that's why you're part of the team, bro.
There we go.
I knew it. I identified it. You're part of the team. Good stuff, man. I wanted to say that to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes,
let's
sir.
keep it going. Work on. Let's get those calls.
Let's go
going, and then
Yep. All right, man. And it seems like based on the responses, if not everybody, most people certainly dig the new look here. I think it's more visually appealing.
Yeah, it's warmer.
It's warmer. Let's face it. Anytime you get a chance to show off an Emmy, that's not you
got
get it. A little digital flex isn't the worst thing in the world when you try to build out the brand. You know what I mean, Jay?
Yeah. Oh, come on now. No, I feel like it's necessary. Like every sports show guy kind of has their little awards and their trophies behind them. So got to do the same.
I can't wait till we get that. It's gonna be a minute, but when we get that $100,000 plaque from YouTube, the 100,000 sub plaque from YouTube.
The $100,000 plaque from YouTube.
Oh yeah, we'll get that. That's called revenue. We're getting there, buddy. We're doing
Let's go. Let's go.
Man. Let me bounce here. J-Rod, have a great rest of your Wednesday. Everybody, tonight again, Jets. You don't have to put it up on the screen, Jay. You're good. You've done it enough. Episode number 4, Jets Collective, all draft, the rumblings, the possibilities. We are 8 days away from the NFL draft. A lot of draft content next week. Obviously, we just tuned in a lot of Met stuff at the start, some Yankee stuff as well. Little St. John's portal stuff, and Mel Kiper's draft. We went through that, at least the top 10 picks, and some other things he thinks going to happen. So great time of the sports year. Have an awesome rest of your Wednesday. See you tomorrow on Unleashed. Peace.
This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
With your host,